The sleek hegemony vessels entered Earth's orbit with all the confidence of apex predators. Their hulls gleamed in the sunlight, reflecting blue-white light as they arranged themselves in a perfect hexagonal formation above the planet. Each ship was nearly 3 kilometers long, dwarfing the largest human orbital stations. Admiral Ta stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the main display wall of Earth Defense Command. His weathered face revealed nothing, but his eyes tracked every movement of the alien fleet. The command center hummed with tense activity as officers monitored sensors and communications. "Admiral," Lieutenant Kim called from her station. "The lead vessel is transmitting a signal. They're requesting direct communication." Ta nodded once. "Put them through." "Yes, sir." Establishing connection now. The massive central screen flickered, and the image of a being unlike anything seen on Earth appeared. The alien stood nearly 3 meters tall with a willowy frame that seemed almost too delicate to support its height. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent quality that shifted between pale blue and violet as it moved. Large, almond-shaped eyes dominated a narrow face, and when it spoke, its mouth barely moved. "I am Ambassador Rion of the Galactic Hegemony," the alien announced. Its voice was melodic, but carried an unmistakable tone of superiority. "We bring greetings to Earth." Admiral Ta stepped forward. "This is Admiral Tai of Earth Defense Command. We acknowledge your greeting." The alien's head tilted slightly. "Your quick response is noted. Most developing worlds require more time to process first contact." Several officers exchanged glances, but Tay's expression remained neutral. "We've been waiting for this moment for some time, Ambassador." "Yes, I imagine your telescopes detected our approach weeks ago." Ryan's thin lips curved into what might have been a smile. "We've been observing your civilization for considerably longer. Your species shows promise, though you're still quite early in your development. The hegemony offers protection and guidance to developing worlds like yours." Director Park, a woman in her 60s with short gray hair and the calm demeanor of the seasoned diplomat, stepped into view beside Ta. "I am Director Park, Earth's chief diplomat. We appreciate your interest in our world, Ambassador. Perhaps you'd like to visit the surface and see our developing civilization firsthand." The alien seemed to consider this for a moment. "A cultural exchange would be appropriate at this stage. We accept your invitation." "Excellent," Director Park said. "We'll prepare a reception at our Global Unity Center. Would 3 of your planetary hours be sufficient time for your delegation to prepare?" Ambassador Ryan's iridescent skin rippled slightly. "More than adequate. We will send a delegation of 5 representatives." After the communication ended, Director Park turned to Admiral Ta. "That went as expected." "They're condescending," Ta noted. "Of course they are. That works in our favor." Park smiled thinly. "I've already notified the Unity Center. They're activating Protocol Humble Home." 3 hours later, a small hegemony shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, landing on the designated pad at the Global Unity Center in New Seoul. The building, a gleaming structure of curved glass and apparent concrete, had been constructed 5 years earlier specifically for this purpose. The alien delegation emerged from their craft with fluid grace. Ambassador Ryan led 4 others of his species, each wearing what appeared to be ceremonial robes in various shimmering colors. They moved with deliberate slowness, their large eyes taking in everything. Director Park led the welcoming committee, which included Admiral Ta and several high-ranking officials from various Earth nations. The humans bowed slightly in greeting. "Welcome to Earth," Director Park said warmly. "We're honored by your presence." Ryan inclined his head. "We are pleased to make direct contact with your species. This is a significant moment in your world's history." "Indeed it is," Park agreed. "Please follow me. We've prepared a tour of our facilities and a small reception." The tour began with carefully selected areas of the Unity Center, meeting halls, cultural exhibits, and basic scientific displays that showcased Earth's current level of technology. Everything had been meticulously prepared to present an image of a united, peaceful planet that had only recently mastered fusion power and was just beginning to explore its own solar system in earnest. One of the alien delegates, who introduced himself as Cultural Observer Sun, examined a display about Earth's space program with particular interest. "Your propulsion systems are quite primitive," he noted, "still using chemical rockets for most applications." "We're making progress," one of the human scientists replied with appropriate humility. "Our Mars colony is still small, but growing steadily." Ambassador Rian nodded approvingly. "Typical development pattern. Within another century, you may achieve efficient interplanetary travel." As the tour continued through various laboratories and manufacturing displays, Officer Han, who had been assigned as part of the security detail, moved closer to Admiral Ta. His eyes flicked toward a small device one of the aliens was carrying. "Sir," he whispered, keeping his face composed, "they're scanning everything." Ta gave a barely perceptible nod. "Expected. What's the signature?" "Standard electromagnetic and gravitational. Basic stuff." Han's lips barely moved as he spoke, but they're missing the subsystems. Their scans aren't detecting anything below the 5th sublevel or any of the quantum-shielded areas. "Good," Tai replied quietly. "Let's keep it that way." The delegation moved into a large reception hall where representatives from Earth's nations waited. Food and drink had been prepared, both Earth cuisine and synthesized options based on what Earth scientists had deduced might be compatible with hegemony physiology. Ambassador Rian addressed the gathered humans. "The hegemony oversees nearly 800 worlds across this sector of the galaxy. Most began as Earth has, showing promise but requiring guidance. Under our protection, developing civilizations are shielded from exploitation and cultural contamination." "And what does this protection entail?" Director Park asked. "Resource sharing, technological guidance appropriate to your development stage, and defense from outside threats." Ryan's skin shimmered as he spoke. "In exchange, member worlds contribute raw materials and serve roles that benefit the greater galactic community." "How fascinating," Park said, her expression one of polite interest. "We have much to learn about this greater community." As the reception continued, Ryan and his delegation continued scanning and observing, completely unaware that everything they saw was carefully curated, or that deep beneath their feet and in hidden orbital facilities, the true extent of human technological advancement remained concealed, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. 2 weeks after first contact, a larger hegemony vessel entered Earth's atmosphere. This ship was different from the diplomatic craft. It was bulkier, covered with scanning equipment and scientific instruments. Earth officials had been informed that this was the standard assessment team, sent to evaluate developing worlds for their potential place in the galactic community. The ship landed at New Seoul Spaceport, where a welcoming committee waited. Unlike the first contact event, this reception was smaller and more focused on scientific personnel rather than diplomats. Scientific Director Lee was the first to exit the vessel. Unlike Ambassador Ren, Lee had a more practical appearance. His iridescent skin was a deeper blue, and he wore what appeared to be a functional uniform rather than ceremonial robes. 4 other aliens followed him, each carrying advanced equipment. "Welcome to Earth," Dr. Cho said, stepping forward as the lead human representative. She was the director of Earth's Public Scientific Division, a tall woman with short black hair and a friendly smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "We're honored that the hegemony has sent such distinguished scientists to learn about our world." Lee nodded curtly. "The assessment is a standard procedure. All potential member worlds undergo this process." His large eyes swept across the spaceport. "We will require access to your primary energy production facilities, manufacturing centers, and research institutions." "Of course," Dr. Cho replied. "We've prepared an itinerary that should cover everything you need to see. Shall we begin?" Over the next 3 days, the assessment team was guided through carefully selected sites across the planet. The first stop was a fusion power plant outside Seoul, one of the newer facilities that Earth had deemed appropriate to show. Inside the reactor control room, Lee studied the monitoring systems with particular interest. His scanning device hummed as he passed it over various control panels. "Your fusion technology is quite impressive for a species at your stage," Lee commented. "Most civilizations at your development level are still burning fossil fuels as their primary energy source." "Thank you," Dr. Cho responded with appropriate modesty. "We're quite proud of our progress. Environmental concerns pushed us to develop cleaner energy faster than we might have otherwise." Lee made notes on his device. "Logical adaptation. The containment field design is particularly efficient, though your power output is still relatively low." What Lee and his team couldn't see, were the real advancements hidden from their view. Deep beneath the mountains 50 kilometers away, the Quantum Computation Center ran simulations that were centuries beyond what the hegemony believed humans capable of. In orbit, disguised as weather and communication platforms, nanofabrication facilities produced materials that shouldn't have been possible according to the technological timeline the aliens believed Earth was following. On the fourth day, the assessment team visited manufacturing centers in what had once been North America. Lee seemed particularly interested in the robotics assembly lines. "Your automation is rudimentary but functional," he observed, watching robotic arms assemble vehicle components. "The programming is surprisingly adaptable." The team leader for the facility, Engineer Ba, nodded. "We found that flexible programming saves resources in the long run, even if it requires more initial development time." One of Lee's assistants whispered something to him, and Lee turned to Dr. Cho. "Your power grid efficiency is unusual. Most developing worlds have significant energy loss during transmission." "We've been working on superconducting materials," Dr. Cho explained, the practiced lie coming easily. "Nothing particularly advanced, but we've made incremental improvements." By the sixth day, the assessment team had visited 15 facilities across 3 continents. Everything had gone according to plan. The humans had shown their best technology, carefully selected to appear advanced enough to be interesting, but not so advanced as to raise suspicion. Then came the Kang incident. The research facility outside what had once been Singapore was one of the most carefully prepared sites on the tour. Everything visible was precisely at the technological level Earth wanted to present. The problem wasn't with what could be seen. It was with what lay behind a security door that should have remained locked. Dr. Kang had been leading the hegemony scientists through the materials science wing when the power fluctuation hit. It was minor, just a brief surge that would normally go unnoticed. But it was enough to disrupt the security protocols on a sealed door marked Theoretical Applications Lab. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a room that should have remained hidden. Lee's attention immediately shifted to the open doorway. Inside, partially disassembled weapons components lay on workbenches. Even incomplete, their design was unmistakable to anyone with knowledge of advanced technology. Particle focusing arrays, gravitational manipulation cores, and energy containment systems that shouldn't have existed on Earth for at least another century, according to humanity's supposed development timeline. "What is this section?" Lee asked, already moving toward the open door before any human could react. Dr. Kang stepped quickly to block his path, but it was too late. Lee had seen enough. "That area is still under construction," Dr. Kang said, trying to sound casual. "Nothing interesting yet." But Lee's eyes had narrowed, his iridescent skin darkening to a deep purple, a sign of intense focus among his species. "Those components, their design is interesting. Not what I would have expected from your civilization at this stage." Dr. Cho laughed nervously as she joined them. "Just prototypes, mostly theoretical. Dr. Kang's team likes to experiment with concepts beyond our current manufacturing capabilities." "I see," Lee said, his tone neutral but his eyes still fixed on what he could see of the room before Security Officer Jin accidentally triggered the emergency protocols that sealed the door once again. "Sorry about that," Jin said with a believable grimace. New security system still has some bugs. Lee turned to face Dr. Cho fully. I would be interested in learning more about these theoretical designs. Of course, Cho replied smoothly, though I'm afraid most of it is just creative thinking. We're still decades away from actually building functioning versions. The tour continued, with the humans acting as though nothing unusual had happened. But something had changed. The hegemony scientists conferred among themselves more frequently, and their scanning devices were more actively used at each subsequent location. That evening, in the secure meeting room at Earth Defense Command, Admiral Ta listened as Dr. Cho recounted the incident. How much did they see? He asked grimly. Too much, Cho admitted. The containment field generators were partially exposed. Lee recognized them immediately. Director Park sighed. So our timeline has accelerated. Yes, Tai agreed. They suspect something now. The seed of doubt has been planted. Park nodded slowly. Then we need to prepare for the next phase sooner than expected. Alert all hidden facilities. If they start looking harder, we need to be ready. As they spoke, in orbit above Earth, Scientific Director Lee was sending an encrypted communication back to the Hegemony Council. The message was brief but would send ripples through the galactic power structure. Assessment of Sol 3 requires revision. Inconsistencies detected. Recommend deeper investigation. Scientific Director Lee's report spread quickly through the Hegemony Council. The suggestion that humans might be hiding advanced technology caused immediate concern. Most council members dismissed the possibility. After all, thousands of worlds have been assessed over millennia, and none had successfully concealed their true technological level. But a faction within the Hegemony's military command viewed the situation differently. Admiral Huan of the Hegemony Defense Force read Lee's report with growing anger. His sleek command vessel orbited the Hegemony throne world as he called his most trusted captains to an emergency meeting. This cannot stand, Huan told the assembled officers. His iridescent skin had turned a dark red, a sign of agitation among their kind. If these humans are hiding technology, they represent a potential threat to the established order. Captain 1, his second in command, looked concerned. The Council has not authorized military action. They've merely requested additional assessment teams. The Council moves too slowly, Huan replied. By the time they reach a decision, it could be too late. If humans possess advanced technology and hostile intent, every day we wait increases risk. What do you propose, Admiral? Another officer asked. A demonstration, Huan said. Swift and decisive. We will target one of their orbital facilities. This Jin station they believe we don't know about. A short, controlled attack that will show them the consequences of deception while revealing whatever hidden defenses they might have. 3 days later, 5 Hegemony warships approached the Earth system using their most advanced stealth technology. They moved slowly, careful to avoid detection, as they slipped past the outer planets. On Earth, in the deep underground command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, Lieutenant Su glanced up from her monitoring station with a frown. Admiral Tai, we're detecting anomalous gravitational distortions near the orbit of Mars. Ta moved to her station. Hegemony ships. 5 of them, sir, using their phase shift technology to avoid conventional detection. Tai's expression remained calm, but his eyes hardened. How long have we been tracking them? Since they entered the Kuiper Belt, sir. Quantum entanglement detectors picked them up immediately. Ta nodded, and they think they're invisible to us. Interesting. He turned to his communication officer. Alert Supreme Commander Yoon. It seems our visitors have decided to escalate matters. As the Hegemony ships approached Earth orbit, their target came into view. Orbital Station Jin appeared to be a modest research platform, one of dozens circling the planet. Its official purpose was atmospheric study and space weather monitoring. On the bridge of his lead vessel, Admiral Huan studied the station. Minimal defenses visible. Prepare targeted weapons. Disable their communication systems first, then their power core. No complete destruction. This is a demonstration only. The hegemony ships moved into attack formation and powered up their weapon systems. The first shots, brilliant beams of concentrated energy, streaked across space toward Station Jin. What happened next would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. As the energy beams approached the station, a previously invisible shield flared to life. The incoming fire didn't impact the shield. It simply ceased to exist, absorbed completely. Then, without warning, a web of fine blue light surrounded all 5 hegemony vessels. On Juan's command ship, alarms blared as systems began shutting down one after another. "What's happening?" Juan demanded. "Return fire." "Weapons offline," Captain One reported, confusion evident in his voice. "Engines offline. Life support switching to emergency power. Something is disrupting all primary systems." Within 30 seconds, all 5 hegemony warships hung powerless in space, only their emergency life support still functioning. The attack had failed so completely and so quickly that many crew members didn't even realize what had happened. A communication channel opened on every ship simultaneously. Admiral Tay's face appeared on their screens. "Hegemony vessels, this is Earth Defense Command. Your unprovoked attack has been neutralized. Your ships are currently held in a containment field. Life support will be maintained, but any attempt to restore weapons or engines will result in complete systems failure. Representatives from the Hegemony Council are being contacted as we speak." 6 hours later, in the Global Unity Center's Grand Chamber, representatives from both civilizations gathered for an emergency summit. The Hegemony Council had sent their highest-ranking officials, including the Supreme Counselor. They faced Earth's leadership across a circular table. Supreme Commander Yoon stood to address the gathering. Unlike the carefully humble demeanor Earth's representatives had shown previously, she spoke with clear authority. "The attack on our orbital station was unprovoked and unacceptable," she began. "But perhaps it was necessary to move us past the charade." Ambassador Rian leaned forward. "What charade?" "Your military seized our vessels without provocation." Yoon's expression remained calm. "Your vessels fired upon our station first. The recording has been provided to your council." The Supreme Counselor, a tall, ancient-looking member of the same species as Rian, raised a hand for silence. The actions of Admiral Juan were not authorized by the Council, but they were prompted by concerning reports from our assessment team. "Yes," Yoon agreed. "It's time for truth between our civilizations." She pressed a small device on her wrist, and the center of the table illuminated with a holographic display. "We detected your civilizations over a century ago," she explained to the stunned hegemony delegation. "We've been preparing ever since, advancing along technological paths your species never explored." The hologram showed technologies that caused the hegemony representatives to stare in disbelief. Quantum field manipulators, consciousness transfer systems, gravity control far beyond hegemony capabilities. Ambassador Rand's face showed genuine shock. "Impossible. Your world shows none of the standard development markers. No subspace communications, no antimatter production facilities." "No, because we chose different paths," Yoon replied, adjusting the holographic display to show more technologies the hegemony had never imagined. "Your civilization advanced along predictable lines. The same technologies, the same applications, the same limitations. We recognized early that following your path would only make us subservient." Scientific Director Lee studied the hologram with intense concentration. "These principles, some of them violate what we consider fundamental laws of physics." "No," said Dr. Cho, who sat beside Yoon. "They don't violate the laws of physics. They violate your understanding of those laws." The Supreme Counselor's skin had paled to an almost white shade, a sign of extreme distress in their species. "If what you claim is true, then your civilization could have destroyed those warships completely." "Yes," Yoon acknowledged, "but that was never our intent. We don't seek conflict or dominance." "Then what do you want?" the counselor asked. Hume deactivated the hologram. What we've always wanted. Peaceful coexistence, exchange of knowledge. But as equals, not as a developing world under your protection. One of the hegemony ministers spoke up, his voice strained. You deceived us, pretended to be primitive while hiding your true capabilities. We revealed exactly what you expected to see, Tai countered. Your assumptions did the rest. You came expecting a primitive world, so that's what you found. Until today. As the implications sank in, the chamber fell silent. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted in a single day. The mighty hegemony, which had stood unchallenged for millennia, now faced a civilization whose technology had developed in ways they hadn't imagined possible. The Supreme Counselor finally broke the silence. It seems, he said carefully, that we have much to learn about each other. The hegemony throne world of Nexer Prime gleamed like a jewel against the darkness of space. Massive orbital structures surrounded the planet, connected by shimmering transit lines. The seat of galactic power for 12,000 years, its architecture displayed both beauty and intimidation. The Hegemony Council chambers occupied the tallest spire in the capital city. Inside, representatives from 17 galactic species sat in rising tiers around a central speaking floor. The room hummed with tense whispers as they awaited the arrival of the human delegation. Senior Counselor Min, his iridescent skin now a pale, anxious blue, exchanged worried glances with his fellow counselors. The hegemony had faced rebellions, encountered new species, and weathered cosmic disasters. But never had they confronted a situation quite like this. They're here, announced the Chamber Herald, his voice echoing through the vast space. All conversation ceased. The massive doors swung open, and the human delegation entered. Dr. Ba led the group of 7 humans. Unlike the hegemony representatives in their elaborate ceremonial robes, the humans wore simple, elegant uniforms of deep blue with silver trim. They walked with quiet confidence to the center of the chamber. What had truly stunned the hegemony was not merely the humans' presence, but how they had arrived. Their ship, the Dahan, had traveled from Earth to Nexer Prime in just under 3 days, a journey that took hegemony vessels nearly 3 weeks. The humans had utilized principles of space-time manipulation that the hegemony's best scientists couldn't comprehend. Senior Counselor Min rose from his seat and pounded his ceremonial staff 3 times on the floor. The sound reverberated through the chamber. This emergency session will address the unexpected situation regarding Earth, Min declared, struggling to maintain the formal tone expected of his position. The Council recognizes Dr. Ba, representative of Earth. Dr. Ba bowed slightly. Thank you, Counselor Min. We appreciate the Council's willingness to meet with us directly. Counselor Ju, representing the hegemony's military interests, leaned forward. You've given us little choice. Your technology threatens the stability of the established order. Dr. Ba met his gaze steadily. Let's be clear about what's happening here. You assumed we were primitive because we didn't follow your technological roadmap. That was a mistake. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Counselor Ju's skin darkened to an angry purple. Your species concealed its true capabilities. You deliberately missiled our assessment teams. We protected ourselves, Ba corrected calmly. Our historical records contain many examples of technologically advanced civilizations exploiting those they deemed inferior. When we detected your communications a century ago and understood the nature of the hegemony, we made a collective decision. Dr. Ba gestured to the data pad each counselor had received upon the humans' arrival. The information we've provided outlines our proposal. We offer partnership instead of subjugation. We have technologies you don't. You have knowledge we lack. We propose exchange rather than hierarchy. The council chamber erupted in arguments. Some counselors shouted accusations of deception, while others demanded immediate access to human technology. Beneath the outrage, however, was unmistakable fear and curiosity. Senior Counselor Min pounded his staff again, calling for order. The human proposal is unprecedented. he said when the chamber quieted. No civilization has ever entered the hegemony as an equal partner. Perhaps that's why your progress has stagnated, said Commander Kang, one of the human delegates. All eyes turned to her. Explain yourself, demanded Counselor Sek, representing the scientific division. Commander Kang stepped forward. Our analysis of hegemony technology shows minimal advancement over the past 1,000 years. You've refined existing systems, but developed few truly new applications. She activated a holographic display showing comparison charts. We believe this is because your hierarchical structure discourages innovation from lesser worlds. Counselor Sek's multiple eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of agitation in his species. Preposterous. The hegemony has the finest scientific minds in the galaxy. Yet you still can't achieve instantaneous communication across interstellar distances. Dr. Jun, another human delegate, pointed out. Something humans mastered 50 years ago. Impossible, Sek responded automatically. Quantum entanglement cannot carry information faster than light. This is a fundamental law of physics. Dr. Jun smiled slightly. As we told your scientists earlier, you've confused your understanding of physics with physics itself. To demonstrate, she removed a small device from her pocket and placed it on the floor. A moment later, an identical device appeared next to it, seemingly from nowhere. The chamber fell silent. Matter transfer without transit time, Dr. Jun explained. Just one of many technologies we're prepared to share under the right partnership agreement. Senior Counselor Min stared at the devices. This changes everything. That's precisely our point, Dr. Ba said. The galaxy can be more than it is. The hegemony can be more than it has been. Representative Hack from the Trade Division leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing? That we simply dismantle our entire galactic structure. Thousands of worlds depend on hegemony stability. Not dismantling, Dr. Ba clarified. Evolving. Our proposal outlines a transitional period during which we would work together to create a more balanced system, one where advancement is shared rather than controlled. Counselor Ju's voice cut through the chamber. And if we refuse, will Earth use its advanced weapons to force compliance? Dr. Ba shook her head. That's not who we are. If the Council rejects partnership, we'll simply continue our independent development. But consider this. If Earth advanced so far without your knowledge, how many other worlds might be doing the same? The implication hung in the air. The hegemony's control was built on technological superiority. If that advantage disappeared, Senior Counselor Min spoke after a long silence. The Council will recess to consider Earth's proposal. But first, a question. Dr. Ba, why did you finally reveal yourselves? You could have remained hidden for decades more. Dr. Ba's expression softened slightly. Because isolation serves no one in the long term. Humans reached a consensus that despite the risks, connection would benefit both our civilizations. We believe the same is true for the galaxy as a whole. As the human delegation was escorted to waiting chambers, the Council erupted in heated debate. Some counselors demanded immediate military action, while others argued for acceptance of human terms. Most fell somewhere between, fearful of change, but equally afraid of rejecting it. Representative Gill of the Historical Archives, one of the oldest members of the Council, finally spoke. His species was known for their long view of galactic affairs. 12,000 years ago, he said, his voice thin but carrying throughout the chamber, the first Hegemony Council faced a similar moment of choice. They could continue as separate, competing worlds, or create something greater. They chose growth over fear. He looked around the chamber. Perhaps it is time we make the same choice again. The chamber fell silent as his words sank in. Outside, the Dahan orbited Nexer Prime, its impossible existence a constant reminder that the galaxy had suddenly become a much larger, more complex place than the hegemony had ever imagined. 5 years after the historic negotiations on Nexer Prime, the galaxy had transformed in ways few had imagined possible. The rigid hegemony structure that had governed for millennia had given way to a more collaborative Council of Worlds, with Earth as a founding member alongside former hegemony powers. The new council headquarters orbited in neutral space, a massive station built using combined technologies from 7 species. Its design symbolized the new order, neither human nor hegemony in style, but something entirely new. Professor Song stood before a classroom filled with students from 23 different worlds. The lecture hall at the Galactic Exchange University on Earth's moon was designed to accommodate beings of all sizes and environmental needs. Some students breathed different air mixtures in special suits, while others floated in gravity fields adjusted to their homeworlds. Today we'll discuss the principles behind unified field theory, Professor Song said, activating a holographic display that filled the center of the room. Complex equations and 3-dimensional models appeared, rotating slowly for all to see. A student from the former hegemony world of Carius raised a limb. Professor, these equations contradict what we learned about subspace mechanics. Excellent observation, Song replied with a smile. They don't contradict those principles. They expand upon them. She adjusted the display to show the relationship between the 2 theoretical frameworks. This is why our joint research has been so productive. Each civilization approached the same physical laws from different perspectives. After class, Song met with her research team in the quantum laboratory. Scientists from 7 worlds worked side by side, each bringing unique insights to their shared project. The combined approach to quantum entanglement has already yielded breakthroughs neither civilization could have achieved alone, she explained to visiting dignitaries. Last month, we successfully transmitted matter across 10 light-years instantaneously. The implications for medicine, exploration, and quality of life are enormous. One of the hegemony scientists, Dr. Nam, adjusted a containment field. The hubris of the old hegemony was thinking technological advancement was linear, he admitted. We believed all species would follow the same development path, just at different speeds. Professor Song nodded. Humanity developed differently because our evolution and planetary conditions pushed us toward innovation rather than standardization. Our isolation forced us to find unique solutions. And our vast network made us complacent, Nam added. Why innovate when you can simply adopt? In orbit above Earth, the Joint Fleet conducted training exercises. 20 ships from 11 worlds moved in complex formations, testing new defensive systems developed through collaboration. On the bridge of the flagship New Horizon, Captain Shin observed the maneuvers with satisfaction. The crew under her command included beings from across the galaxy, each serving according to their abilities rather than their species or origin world. Position gamma formation, she ordered. Prepare for simulated electromagnetic pulse. Her executive officer, a former hegemony commander named Quan, relayed the orders. 5 years ago, the idea of a hegemony officer taking orders from a human would have been unthinkable. Now, it was routine. Pulse incoming in 5 seconds, Quan reported. All ships have acknowledged. When the exercise concluded, Shin invited the fleet captains to a debriefing. They gathered in the conference room, some physically present while others joined via holographic projection. The new shield harmonics performed beyond expectations, she told them. This level of protection would have been impossible without combining Rillian phase technology with Earth's quantum field generators. Far below, on the surface of Earth, Ambassador Rian, now the permanent liaison between his homeworld and Earth, walked the streets of New Seoul with Admiral Ta. Unlike his first visit years ago, Ryan now moved comfortably among humans, having adapted to Earth's gravity and atmosphere. They stopped at a small cafe overlooking the harbor, where ships both oceanic and atmospheric came and went. Rian sipped a tea blend created specifically to appeal to his species' taste receptors, one of many cultural exchanges that had flourished in recent years. I received word from the council today, Ryan said. The proposal to extend membership to the Corellian cluster has been approved. Ta nodded. Good. They've been isolated too long. Ryan studied the human admiral. I still don't understand why you didn't simply announce yourselves to the galaxy when you achieved faster-than-light travel, he admitted. You could have joined the galactic community decades earlier. Ta smiled slightly. Because we heard how the hegemony treated developing worlds. We monitored your communications, remember? We knew exactly what our status would have been. A resource world, not a partner. We wanted to meet as equals, not subjects. And now? Ryan asked, gesturing to the world around them. Ta looked toward the spaceport where ships from a dozen worlds were docking. Some carried trade goods, others diplomatic personnel. Still others were filled with students arriving to study Earth culture or share their own. Now we're all advancing together, he said. Isn't that better? Ryan couldn't disagree. The changes had been difficult for many in the former hegemony. Pride and tradition didn't yield easily, but the benefits were undeniable. In just 5 years, medical advances had extended lifespans on 14 worlds. New transportation networks had alleviated resource shortages that had plagued frontier planets for generations. Knowledge that had been hoarded was now freely shared. That evening, the Council of Worlds convened for its monthly assembly. Representatives from 62 worlds attended, far more than the 17 species that had made up the old hegemony leadership. Supreme Counselor Mun, elected from a world that had once been considered insignificant in hegemony politics, called the session to order. Today we welcome observers from the Andromeda Alliance, she announced. Our first contact with an extragalactic civilization. The assembled representatives applauded as the visitors were introduced. Unlike the cautious, secretive approach that had characterized Earth's first contact with the hegemony, this meeting took place in an atmosphere of openness and mutual respect. Later, as the Earth delegation prepared to return home, Director Park, now in her 70s, but still serving as an advisor, watched the proceedings with satisfaction. Did you ever imagine it would turn out this way? Asked Dr. Cho, standing beside her. Park shook her head. I hoped, but no, I couldn't have predicted this. When we detected their signals a century ago, we only knew we needed to protect ourselves. And instead, we ended up transforming the galaxy, Cho said. Not us alone, Park corrected. This new order is neither human nor hegemony. It's something better than either of us could have created separately. As their shuttle departed the station, they could see ships of all designs moving through the surrounding space, some built with former hegemony technology, others with human innovations, and many combining elements of both. Each represented not just transportation, but a shared future that continued to unfold in ways none had fully anticipated. The end.